Hi guys, it's Michelle, Deception Bytes, and today is Sunday, October 7th, and it's 9:14 p.m. if you're on medication, and if you're not, it is still 9:14 p.m. Now, we're going to pick up from where we left off in the last Q video, and we finished with yesterday's post, and we are starting fresh with today's. So let's get to it. Alrighty then. All right. Now, this is the first post right here, and Q has posted something that he posted before, and actually, I think he's actually posted this a couple times, 2 or 3 times if I'm not mistaken, but this is back from April, and we're gonna go here so that we can get a bigger look at it, because I know people will have difficulty seeing it the way it is. This is as big as it goes, but I think it gives us the gist of what is happening here. The original one was posted April 23rd, and it is a picture of Hillary Rodham Clinton giving a kiss on the cheek to Senator Robert Byrd, a former KKK member. From my first day in the Senate, and of course this is Hillary Clinton speaking, from my first day in the Senate, I sought out his guidance, and he was always generous with his time and his wisdom. As Secretary of State, I continue to rely on his advice and counsel. Hillary Clinton, 2008. So it is proof that Hillary Clinton was very good friends with Robert Byrd and, in fact, leaned on him for counsel. And this is a picture, of course, of him in his former KKK uniform. Now, down here it says a quick history lesson. 13th Amendment abolished slavery. 100% Republican support, but only 23 of the Democrats supported abolishing slavery. 14th Amendment gave citizenship to freed slaves. 94% of the Republicans supported it, but 0% of the Democrats supported it. So the Democrats, not only did they not want to abolish slavery, they wanted to keep slavery, but they also did not want to, when they lost, give citizenship to those freed slaves. So wanted to keep them as second-class citizens, apparently. And the 15th Amendment, which the right to vote for all, 100% had the Republican support, but none of the Democrats supported that whatsoever. Of course, they only wanted certain people to vote so that there was more control over who got in, of course. Now, I want to just say this on the side very quickly, because there are a lot of people under the impression, and I think a lot of them must live in Canada, that the KKK no longer exists. I don't know where that false notion came from, and maybe that's even what they say, that they no longer exist, but that's not true. They do, and I can tell you why. I know that. At least they did. Gosh, it would be 15 years ago now, maybe more. But I was in North Carolina. I lived in a little town. Well, I lived outside of it, actually, but I lived actually way out, but Wilkesboro was the main town, and there was Wilkesboro and North Wilkesboro that were connected by a bridge, and they were having I think it was Wilkesboro that was having a parade. Well, I thought that was great fun, a parade. Who doesn't love a parade? So I went down, and I had a friend with me that happened to be black, and she became very increasingly uncomfortable, and she kept saying, come on, let's go. And she said, I don't have a good feeling about this. Please, let's go. And I said, what do you mean? How can you not have a good feeling about a parade? It's a parade. And I was just not getting it at all. And so I just kept stalling. Well, I had driven her there, and she kept saying, please, come on, let's go. And I said, I don't get what the problem is. And she said, take a look around. And I did. And she said, what do you notice? And I said, I don't notice anything. She said, do you notice any black people here? And I said, no, actually, there aren't. Yeah, that is strange, because, the population was about 50-50. Maybe slightly more white. I don't know. But it was around 50-50. And so I said, yeah, that is strange. What what's the deal with that? And I said, don't y'all come out to the parades? And she's like, Michelle, we got to go now. And all of a sudden, in the distance, we see these dark quarter horses approaching, and there are men on with white sheets. And she's like, absolutely, she I was just about to say she turned white. No, she didn't turn white, but you could tell, like, she was just pale and ashen looking, like she was terrified. And we did get out of there. Now, they were marching. They weren't causing any trouble at that time, but I did start asking around because I wanted to know more about this, and actually wish that I hadn't started asking around, because I found out more than I really wanted to know. But anyway, they do still march in places. So just so you know that. And maybe Wilkes County, it is a very, very unique place. In fact, the church I attended was the only church in the county that allowed black and white members to worship together. Now, I thought that was normal. I didn't see that as and when I was told that they were the only church in the county, I was absolutely dumbfounded. Could not wrap my head around it, and I still can't. But anyway, that has nothing to do with Q. That's a little story I just threw in there. It happens to be, unfortunately, a true story, but there you go. All right, so Q says, after showing us this and waking us up once again to the history of the Democratic Party, he says, unplug from the fake news. Unplug. It's a false reality. Propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. So the fake news is a propaganda arm of the Democratic Party, and I do believe that a lot of what we see on television is propaganda, even though it's in the form of a little sitcom that we can laugh about. A lot of it is propaganda. Not all of it, but a lot of it is. And Q says, think for yourself. Research for yourself. Trust yourself. Find the truth. Don't be a pawn in their sick game. Q. Well, if there's one thing I know about my listeners, it's this. I don't believe that any of you all are just pawns in their sick game. Because if you were, you would not, absolutely not, be listening to me right now. Anyway, let's go up to the next post. A beautiful American flag. And it says, America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Something we're very, very familiar with, of course, and should be. And underneath there is a quote from Ronald Reagan, which says the following: freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to them to do the same, or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States, where men were free. You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance. Will preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or will sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness. Ronald Reagan. Now beneath that, Q has said, boom week. Q. Now, that's not the first time I'm hearing this, because actually Fox News has already told us last week, we're in the weekend part of it, but last week, I guess, that this coming week would be a big news week. So this is what I'm thinking, and of course this is speculation, so please take it as such. I think that the declassification is going to come out this week. Now, why? Because I think that it's a good time. It's a good time for it to come out, because Justice Kavanaugh's in. We've kind of gotten over that. It's a good time for the big bomb to drop, and it may take some of the negative stuff away from where they're trying to place it. I don't know. I just think it's a good time for it to come out, but hey, I'm not the one making those decisions. I'm just speculating. All right. Now, the next post here is a link to a YouTube video, which I can't remember what this is, so we'll go out and look. Oh, yes. I'm going to listen to this.
Baker reportedly told investigators there was another source feeding information to the FBI before the agency launched a probe of the Trump campaign. Republicans are calling it a bombshell.
Some of the things that were shared were explosive in nature. I mean, I couldn't believe that I was hearing some of the testimony that here in the United States that the DOJ and FBI were involved with.
During the time prior to the election, there was another source giving information directly to the FBI, which we found the source to be pretty explosive.
And this additional source, he's being identified as Michael Sussman, a former DOJ prosecutor with links to the Democratic National Committee. Sources say he reached out to the FBI to provide documents on Russian hacking. I'm back now with House Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes. And Mr. Chairman, connect the dots for us to tell us why this is important here. We know that you've been investigating the origin of this investigation that took place into Trump and Russia collusion, which of course was never existent. So tell us why this James Baker news is important.
Well, it's very simple. James Baker was the top lawyer at the FBI, reported directly to James Comey. Numerous officials at the DOJ and the FBI have told us under oath that the FBI, nobody at FBI or DOJ knew anything about the Democratic Party being behind the Clinton dirt. Well, now you have one of the top lawyers for the Democrats and the Clinton campaign who was feeding information directly to the top lawyer at the FBI before even the FISA warrant. So now you have absolute proof that that wasn't told to the FISA court. So you want your evidence of FISA abuse? There it is right there. A secret warrant was placed on an American citizen during a political campaign, and yet the FBI did not tell the court that they were getting this information directly from the opponent of that campaign. And this is really bad stuff. It's very simple. I mean, you just had it's not complicated. People should know it's probably not appropriate for a top lawyer of the Democratic Party to take dirt and give it to the top lawyer at the FBI.
And once again, they did not tell the FISA judge when they were looking to get that FISA warrant to wiretap Carter Page because he was on the Trump campaign. They did not tell the FISA judge that the information was coming from the DNC.
That is correct. And not only that, you also have that many officials have told us numerous times that they had no idea where it's coming from. And don't forget, you had originally the story from FBI and DOJ was that Republicans had started this information and given this information, and that has been totally blown out of the water. Republicans had nothing to do with it, and the top levels of the FBI absolutely knew this, right? I mean, you can't possibly argue that the top lawyer for the FBI meets with the top lawyer for the Democratic Party and just doesn't tell anyone. And so then you fast forward 4 months later. 4 months later, when they come and present the information to Congress, they say, well, we believe that Republicans were behind this. No, Republicans were never behind it. You knew the whole time who was behind it, the Democrats were, and it was so explosive and so damaging that that's why they didn't want us to know. And this is why the President of the United States has got to declassify the information we've been asking for. If he doesn't declassify it, he's going to let these criminals, this criminal activity and fraudulent behavior, people are going to get away with it if this information is not declassified so that all the American people can see.
Well, you're 4 weeks away. 4 weeks away from the midterm elections. Is he going to declassify before the midterm elections? I mean, this seems to be a critical piece of information that the American people need to know.
Well, look, he ordered it done. He ordered it done 3 weeks ago. He said he was ordering immediately with no redactions. And then what happened? A few days later, you had Rod Rosenstein convene all the top people, okay, the same people that are involved in that signed the FISA, that have been blocking Congress from getting information. They all met with the president and told the president we can't do it because allies might get concerned.
So you
can't buy any of this from these guys.
So you have a meeting, or Rod Rosenstein's going to be meeting with lawmakers next week. Tell us what you're expecting from this meeting from Rod Rosenstein next week. You already interviewed Andrew McCabe. Does what McCabe said jive with what Rosenstein has told you?
Well, this is going to be the real question, right? You had the he said, she said, one in the New York Times where McCabe's people said that definitely Rod Rosenstein was wanting to wear a wire to go in and secretly record the President of the United States so that they could use the 25th Amendment to remove him. I mean, that's a bombshell of a claim, right? If you really had the Deputy Attorney General who's in charge of the Russia investigation, who appointed the special counsel willing to go do that. Now, in the Washington Post, you kind of had I didn't really say that. It seems like it was coming from Rosenstein and the Department of Justice's people. I really didn't say that. I was just joking. Now, I don't believe that's a joke. I don't think it's something you would joke about.
Yeah.
You know, pretty serious stuff that you say, I'm going to wear a wire and go in and secretly record the President of the United States.
Yeah. Does Rod Rosenstein have a problem?
Well, I think it all comes down to whether or not he was willing to wear a wire or not. If he was willing to wear a wire and secretly record the president, Maria, it's some place that this country's never been before. I don't know of any time in the history of this country where you had people who are at the top levels of government conspiring to secretly record a president so that you can trap the president into being able to go after the 25th Amendment to remove the president. That's serious stuff.
Yeah. So you're going to talk about that with Rosenstein next week. Anything else we should expect from this meeting when he heads to Capitol Hill?
Well, I think those are...
I know that this is long, but I think it's very important because this news just came out today, October 7th. This was uploaded to YouTube. And they're talking about next week and what's going to happen next week. And of course, they're going to be meeting with Rod Rosenstein. But I think it's important right now that, Q obviously wanted us to see this. And I think that, and they're talking about, look, we need to get this stuff declassified. It seems to me that now is a good time to declassify that because, first of all, it's got to be declassified before the elections, which are only 4 weeks away. And it has to have time to kind of shake out, because I think that when it first drops, there's going to be a lot of bewilderment, maybe. And I don't know, it's got to have time to settle out and shake out. But let's just listen. There's just another minute and a half or so, 2 minutes. So
are going to be the questions that have to be answered by Rosenstein. He needs to tell us really what he meant by this joke of willingness to wear a wire. And don't forget that this is a very important point. When Rosenstein appointed the special counsel, the lead investigators knew that there was no evidence of the Trump campaign colluding with the Russians. So what has the special counsel been doing this whole time? It really looks like it's pretty clear now that it is an investigation in search of a crime. Because the very thing the Trump campaign was investigated for, colluding with Russians, we now know that it was the Democratic Party colluding with Russians and feeding it to the top levels of the FBI, the general counsel of the FBI.
Wow. Have you spoken with Robert Mueller in any way? Are you calling for Mueller's investigation to be shut down as a result of what you just said?
Well, I don't want the investigation to be shut down. What I want the investigation to do is determine who leaked the Flynn conversations, who leaked General Flynn's conversations. I want them to investigate that. I want them to investigate who was behind Fusion GPS, who was Fusion GPS talking to, what Russians were they talking to, who was Christopher Steele talking to. I want to know all the Russians that Fusion GPS interviewed, got information from, funneled into the Democrat Party, and then the Democratic Party funneled it to the FBI to open an investigation. That's what the Mueller investigation should be looking at.
Understood.
Because I don't know what the hell they were looking at this whole time.
Wow. Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much. We'll be watching a bit.
And you know, that's interesting that he said it was an investigation in search of a crime. And that's true, but there was no crime. And the people that were doing the searching into the crime were the ones committing the crime. So what have they been doing? What have they been spending all this taxpayer money on? You know? I mean, I think that the American people deserve to know. So anyway, let's continue on with what Q has to say. Now, the next is up here, and it is, he's got the first link is to Valerie Jarrett's Twitter page, and this is from her Twitter. To all of the survivors of sexual assault and women who wonder if they will be believed if they are attacked, know there is a growing, powerful movement of support that will always have your back. We believe you. We will stand with you. We will defend you. Change is coming. Now, Q has taken that, of course, and beneath it, he said, change is coming. And that is bolded and in square brackets, which we now know are kill brackets according to Q. So we have another link here, and then beneath that it says goodbye Valerie Jarrett, Q. Now there is one that I will be very happy to say goodbye to, because I don't know, I believe that she's probably one of the more corrupt ones, absolutely. Although it's hard to measure their corruption because they're all so corrupt that they're kind of, it would be hard to measure who is the most corrupt. I mean, aside from Hillary, she's more corrupt than, I think that she taught the devil, like seriously. Anyway, the Judicial Watch blog, Corruption Chronicles, and this of course is judicialwatch.org, FBI files FBI files document communism in Valerie Jarrett's family. Now, we know this. We've heard this before, and it's kind of a done deal. I mean, I've believed that for a very long time now, and I think it was Q that is the one that pointed us in the direction to search to find that stuff. But anyway, let me read this really quickly. Federal Bureau of Investigation files obtained by Judicial Watch reveal that the dad, maternal grandpa, and father-in-law of President Obama's trusted senior advisor, Valerie Jarrett, were hardcore communists under investigation by the U.S. government. Jarrett's dad, pathologist and geneticist Dr. James Bowman, had extensive ties to communist associations and individuals. His lengthy FBI files shows in 1950, Bowman was in communication with a paid Soviet agent named Alfred Stern, who fled to Prague after getting charged with espionage. Bowman was also a member of a communist sympathizing group called the Association of Interns and Medical Students, and his discharge from the Army Medical Corps in 1955, Bowman moved to Iran to work, the FBI shows. Now, Q had gone into this much more in detail in an earlier drop, and I should have looked that up because there's a lot there. But anyway, according to Bowman's government file, the Association of Interns and Medical Students is an organization that has long been a faithful follower of the Communist Party line and engages in un-American activities. Bowman was born in Washington, D.C. and had deep ties to Chicago, where he often collaborated with fellow communists. JW also obtained documents on Bowman from the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, OPM, showing that the FBI was brought in to investigate him for his membership in a group that follows the Communist Party line. The Jarrett family communist ties also include a business partnership between Jarrett's maternal grandpa, Robert Roshan Taylor, and Stern, the Soviet agent associated with her dad. Jarrett's father-in-law, Vernon Jarrett, was also another big-time Chicago communist, according to separate FBI files obtained by JW as part of a probe into the Jarrett's family communist ties. For a period of time, Vernon Jarrett appeared on the FBI's security index and was considered a potential communist saboteur who was to be arrested in the event of conflict with the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR. His FBI file reveals that he was assigned to write propaganda for a Communist Party front group in Chicago that would disseminate the Communist Party line among the middle class. It is well documented that Valerie Jarrett, a Chicago lawyer and longtime Obama confidant, is a liberal extremist who wields tremendous power in the White House. Faithful to her roots, she still has connections to many communist and extremist groups, including the Muslim Brotherhood. Jarrett and her family also had strong ties to Frank Marshall Davis, a big Obama mentor and Communist Party member with extensive FBI file. JW has exposed Valerie Jarrett's many transgressions over the years, including her role in covering up a scandalous gun-running operation carried out by the Department of Justice. Last fall, JW obtained public records that show Jarrett was a key player in the effort to cover up that Attorney General Eric Holder lied to Congress about the Fast and Furious, a disastrous experiment in which the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives allowed guns from the U.S. to be smuggled into Mexico so they could eventually be traced to drug cartels. Instead, federal law enforcement officers lost track. Sure they did. Sure they lost track. Lost track of hundreds of weapons which had been used in an unknown number of crimes, including the murder of a U.S. Border Patrol agent in Arizona. In 2008, Judicial Watch got documents linking Valerie Jarrett, who had served as co-chairman of Obama's presidential transition team, to a series of real estate scandals, including several housing projects operated by convicted felon and Obama fundraiser Antoine Tony Rezko. According to the documents obtained from Illinois Secretary of State, Valerie Jarrett served as board member for several organizations that provided funding and support for Chicago slum projects operated by Rezko. Yeah, well, we know that Valerie Jarrett is as corrupt as they come, and I also find it very strange. In fact, very, very strange. I don't even know how to emphasize it any more than that excuse me, Valerie Jarrett lives with the Obamas, Michael and Barack Obama. She lives with them in their house. Is that not strange? I find that strange, but it's just me. I think that she is the handler for the Obamas. I believe that she is their official handler. That's what I believe, and I doubt anybody, unless they had some mighty good information to back it up, could talk me out of believing that. So anyway, that is the post for tonight. That brings us up to date with Q. So if there are any additional posts tonight, I may get on and do another video, or I may wait and include them with tomorrow's video. But that's it for tonight. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you have a good evening. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a good sleep. Stay safe and stay well. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it.